Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Absolute Superman issue 15 by Jason Aaron and Juan Ferreira. Superman's new mission begins this issue as we find Cal has taken over the Kent family farm. And as Smallville gets to feel like Smallville again in the wake of the battle with Lazarus, Cal gets to work fixing the tractor, thinking how while the townsfolk think it's all quiet, he knows it's not, and he tries not to flinch at the noise he can hear, since there's always noise and more of it all the time, as there is always someone somewhere screaming. Hearing one of the people, Cal suits up and speeds off the farm, taking off across the fields and through the town, where a diner patron thinks that at this rate, Clark Kent is not going to get that tractor fixed. This is a great new beginning to a new arc for Superman, and it's a new phase of his life. Like, he now has an identity, a place to call home. Cal is also not liking the name Superman, and while he doesn't care for it, he still lets people call him that since he knows what it is and what it can do for people. I think that in a way that is a very Superman thing to do. He's very humble and he doesn't see himself as Superman. He just sees himself as a guy trying to use the power he has to help out and do the best he can. His costume also has changed a little bit since, while he's not wearing the suit Martha made for him just yet since that suit was not fully completed, he has made his original costume brighter to reflect that costume that she made him, and it looks fantastic, especially with Juan's vibrant watercolored art. It's just a great blue and red, and I love that the red is also kind of like piped through the costume, but it looks like it's kind of set underneath, so the blue is kind of sitting on top of the red. It's a great look for the costume. Superman gets to work around the world using his crystal cape to help brace a broken dam. While holding it all together, Superman hears someone talking about Winslow Schlott, one of his assistants telling him of one of his factories and how it got caught on fire, and if the company should send out the usual thoughts and prayers. Moments later, Winslow finds himself in a burning office building as Superman has burned a hole right through his building, confronting Winslow as he knows that these fires are no coincidence, and he has had 4 fires in the last 2 years in his factories, with the last one killing 73 workers, some of which were as young as 12, and all Schlott got was a fine and a slap on the wrist. Superman tells him that this is his last slap on the wrist, and he became a billionaire off the backs of children and long working hours and terrible wages, but now the Toyman is going to correct that imbalance, or Superman will do it for him. Winslow wants to know who this being is, but Superman tells him to ask Lazarus Corp what he is, as the people like Schlott sit atop their mountains of wealth, oblivious to what's actually going on in the world and feeling like they are untouchable. But Superman wants him to tell his friends that those days are over and none of them are untouchable to him. Man, Superman still fighting for the oppressed is fantastic, and I cannot believe that people thought that him somehow getting the Kent identity and the connection to the Kents would somehow negate any of that. It would, if in fact it would strengthen it. If anything, Aaron is doubling down on it, and now Clark is going all in on the big companies Lazarus worked with and going after them seemingly one after another, kind of dismantling the world's superpowers and taking the power away from the rich. And no doubt, being this is a Darkseid made world, it will fight back against him and the hope that he is trying to bring to the world. Out in the Nevada desert, Superman finds one of Brainiac's old labs, finding it trashed, as if he hadn't been there in a long while, but he still smells the death and rotting madness that is Brainiac. He finds the smashed up bottled cities, telling his cape that he was right and he was keeping miniaturized alien cities that Brainiac was subject to deranged experiments. Clark knows that he should have heard these screams before, and he knows what Sol is thinking, but he has already checked. None of these alien cities belong to Krypton. He quietly says that he misses Sol, but the cape, now devoid of any personality, bluntly says it cannot recognize the command, as no such program called Sol exists in its database. The death of Sol being a big part of creating this version of Superman and making him who he is great, since it's like the last vestige of his alien heritage, and it was kind of ripped away from him unceremoniously, but also kind of protected him in that moment. And because it's now more alien, there's that whole thing of Superman being a bit torn between his heritage and becoming something new on this new world, which is like kind of the last thing Sol told him to do, to actually become one of the people of this planet, because this is where he is. So he's struggling to find that place and trying to fill Sol's last wishes. With nothing left alive in the lab, Superman burns it down, not knowing if he can do all of this without Soul. Cal soon heads to Pakistan, visiting Ra's al Ghul in prison, where the villain angrily thinks that Cal is there to relish in his victory over him and watch him wither away. Cal knows he's being given proper medical attention, but Ra's knows that he's being denied Lazarus Pit treatments and they have sustained him for centuries, and he's being denied it by his own company as he's been removed from office, as well as the company is now distancing themselves from him, removing Ra's permanently from the company. Aaron writing in a reason why Ra's doesn't just break out of prison is great. You know, he's literally weakened from no longer having constant baths in the Lazarus Pit, so he's weak, he's not the strong man we saw in the last issue. He actually kind of looks very frail and old. It's also rather telling of this whole corporate-run world that Ra's kind of outlived his usefulness. He failed in his mission, so his company and his people are just kind of throwing him to the side as if he was nothing. And I wonder if this is going to lead to something more of an eco-terrorist version of Ra's that we usually see. You know, he wants revenge on his board and then the other companies for, you know, turning their back on him. And that kind of sets him on a path to dismantling these companies like Superman is doing, except he goes about it in all the wrong ways, kind of like how he tried to save the world, quote unquote, but it was just done in the completely wrong way. Superman knows that he didn't come to gloat, he's there because Ra's was right. The thing between them is not finished. Ra's knows that Superman has an enemy for life in him now, and that is what Cal is afraid of, as on Krypton, the Law Guild gave life or death sentences for every crime and criminals would be executed or often written off and never seen again. Superman is looking for a reason for hope, and he has decided to start with Ra's. He shows Ra's a book telling him that he knows Ra's set out hundreds of years ago to help save the world, and he thinks along the way he kind of forgot what he was set out to save, so he hopes he will remember thanks to this book. Superman tells him the booklet is full of prayers, mantras, and poems written by the children from the slums, and they have all been written for Ra's specifically after all of their parents were killed in either Ra's copper mines or by his peacemakers. Ra's scoffs at the idea of Superman trying to rehabilitate him with the musings of some orphans, finding the hero quite pathetic. So this is not what I expected. I expected Ra's to kind of rot in jail for an arc or two before escaping in some way and then coming back to try and get revenge on Superman. But Aaron actively continuing his story, having it be a big part of Superman's quest to find hope in this world and find something to hope for, is thoroughly interesting. Like, I don't think we've seen something like this before with Superman. He's definitely rehabilitated some of his past villains, but like actively, you know, taking a hand in their life and actually, you know, following on from the story of their defeat with him trying to help rehabilitate them in literally the next issue is great. I love it. I love all of this. It's just so much more interesting than him having to fight Ra's again. He's basically going to kill him with kindness, more or less. Ra's demands Superman give him the book since the jail is short on toilet paper and he needs something for him to wipe with. Superman doesn't give the book to him, sitting on a table outside of his cell and telling him that he won't be using it in that way. He leaves Ra's in the cell and deals with a fire in the Amazon, swallowing up the wildfire and moving it to the Flint Hills of Kansas, which is in dire need of a controlled burn. He meets with Lois in Metropolis across from the Daily Planet, and the woman doesn't understand how he managed to eat 12,000 acres of tropical wildfire and then puke it back out in Kansas. Superman doesn't know what else he was meant to do with it, asking Lois since he has no idea what he's doing out there and wondering if she knows what to do. So this is kind of a nitpick and one I didn't really want to know whether I wanted to mention, but I think it's worth mentioning. So there's a little strange bit of an error going on here. Like on the page before there was a spelling mistake, and now the speech bubbles here with Lois and Clark talking about what to do and everything, and if Lois can write about it are kind of like misaligned, or like they aren't attributed to the right person, because it looks like Clark is saying that he wants to write about this where it's actually Lois who's the one saying it, and it's just such a little like error. And of course these little errors will happen in comic books. I don't expect it to be picture perfect every single time, but it was just very strange that there was like a bunch, like several errors all in one part of the book, and I checked the other part of the book and I couldn't find any other errors. It was just this one specific section, and I don't know why. It doesn't ruin the book for me. I'm not going to, you know, immediately say the book is trash because of that. It's just the first time I've ever seen errors like this one after the other, and I'm just wondering why that happened. Superman would rather Lois not write about him, since while he's happy people heard her and Jimmy's message about the siege of Smallville and Jimmy and her are finally getting job offers, she should be well aware of how he feels about being someone who could inspire billions, since he doesn't really want that. Superman just wants to help, he doesn't need the publicity, but Lois wonders if he would like to go and get a beer sometimes, catching Clark off guard. This is what I was saying before, where Clark doesn't really want any of the accolades or praise or anything for doing what he feels is just the right thing to do. He doesn't think that's worthy of praise, since he's just doing what he always would have done. He's doing what is in his nature. It's a very humble Superman thing to do. Lois also being infatuated by Cal and wanting to get to know him more is great, even when Cal doesn't fully understand Earth customs like going to get a beer. In that regard, we get a bit of the bumbling Clark kind of coming through, since he doesn't know of these Earth customs, so he doesn't know how to really react to Lois offering to buy him a drink, and he's never experienced that before, so he's kind of awkward in that way. So I kind of like that. We still get those Clark Kent-isms kind of seeping through here and there. Despite hearing Lois's question, Clark hears something else, asking Lois which way Peoria is. As Lois points to the place's general direction, Superman blasts off from the roof, leaving Lois alone on the Metropolis rooftop. Sometime later, Lana comes by to see Clark at the farm, impressed with how much he's fixed it up. She knows that after the negative press, Lazarus was quick to divest itself of all its holdings in Smallville, meaning the Kent farm was left alone to be taken by Clark, with no one asking any questions. She asks how he feels about it, and Clark is overcome with the noise of the world again. So I really like how the different parts of Superman's life call him something different. Lana and Smallville call him Clark, Lois calls him Kal-El, and his villains mostly call him Superman. It's a great visualization of how fractured Cal feels in his life, how he feels like he's three different people, and he's trying to still sort out who he is in the world. Lana asks if Clark is sleeping and knows that he sometimes does catch some Z's in some clouds, but he always hears the screaming and that wakes him up. Lana thinks that the Kents would be so proud of the man that Clark is, but more than anything, they would want him to take care of himself as well, and all of Smallville want that as well. She shows him some of the food the people have prepared him in the town, and Clark tells her to put it down with the others, since while he doesn't eat, he's going to take the food to some kids who need it in the Sudan. Clark reveals that he's planning on getting the field ready for planting season, and he's going to do it the way the Kents would have done it, without any powers and just sheer will and grit. Lana hopes that maybe he'll have a free moment, and maybe they could stop by the diner for a bite to eat, but before she can finish her sentence, Clark takes off again, racing to help someone else. Lana calls out to Superman and thinks that the new look on him suits him, and black was never his color, and while she gets he was in mourning, Martha was right, and he really does belong in blue. After saving part of the world again, Cal goes to see Raish again, reading to him from the book he showed him, despite Raish's rantings about finding the children who wrote the book and ripping their guts out. Cal doesn't listen, continuing to read from the book but never giving it to Raish despite his demands for it. So I can see what Superman is doing here. He's going to wear Raish down merely with the words and his kindness and kind of help him reflect on who he is as a person. This makes me so fucking happy as well. It's just pure Superman through and through. He's helping the people. When not saving the world or rehabilitating Raish, Cal tries to sow his fields with the tractor, knowing he can't be everywhere at once, but he tries to, leaving midway through sowing the fields to save a boat out in rough waters. He soon hears a car crash miles away, with the passengers given seconds to react, and while he thinks it's obscene to listen to, he thinks it's also more obscene not to listen. He needs to hear this. This is something that every Superman has gone through and learns lessons from. Mainly, he cannot be everywhere all at once, but it won't stop him from trying, and the trick here is he's got to figure out where he will be needed the most, and I like that Cal is starting to figure that out and work out the type of hero he is going to be. He continues to read to Raish while also sowing his fields, stopping to help a sick girl with terminal cancer, taking her to see the snowy mountains so she doesn't die alone looking up at a hospital room ceiling. After the child dies in his arms, Superman spends hours in the stratosphere screaming so loud it knocks satellites from orbit. Superman continues to scream to try and drown out the screams of the people of Earth, wondering how he could possibly endure all of this. Soon his readings for Raish begin taking an effect on the villain, who's getting older and frailer thanks to his Lazarus Pit treatments being withheld. The villain still weakly says that he will kill Superman, but he also begins to falter and listen to the words that Superman says to him. Cal meanwhile knows the world keeps slipping from his fingers and he's killing himself just to give the humans more time. He heads back to the farm where we find out that he's made his fortress in the barn, covering the inside of it with the red crystals. Cal wonders if more time is a gift or a curse, but all he knows for certain is that this is his home now, and he is Kal-El of Krypton, Clark Kent of Kansas, and Superman of Earth, as they all make up who he is. See, this is where I thought this was going to go, and I'm glad it is, since, yeah, Superman can be all of these things. He can be Kal, Clark, and Superman. Making him just one of those things is reductive, and Aaron knows that, and it's why he was never ever getting rid of the alien heritage completely, contrary to what comic Twitter would have you believe. Superman's readings to Raish continue and clearly have an effect on the villain as he finally breaks, reciting some of the poems from the book alongside Cal. The hero knows that while noise can overwhelm, that noise means life, and survival is never silent. It's a cacophony of noise, and it also means that they have hope. Superman's search for hope and what it means to him has been a thoroughly compelling and completely unlike what we've ever seen before with Superman. Aaron has given us classic Superman character moments in interesting new ways that just blow open what hope means to Kal and how he uses it to keep himself and what his mission is moving forward. Later, as Superman screams in the sky, he recites one of these poems to help calm him, but he is actually pulled from his mind by the arrival of Hawkman, who demands to know just what the hell the hero thinks he is doing. Hawkman getting to be a Superman villain is a neat idea, and I'm guessing the newly formed Justice League is what sent him to kill Superman, since we saw Hawkman did already indeed kill Green Arrow, so I guess he's kind of like the hitman of the Justice League. I can't wait to see how that fight goes, because this Superman is pretty powerful, and Hawkman, while he has like super strength and all of that sort of stuff, he at the end of the day is kind of like a weak hero, or a weak villain in this regard, so I'm intrigued to see what tricks and gadgets and whatever else he has up his sleeve. Elsewhere in Missouri, Brainiac walks down the street and into a small town where he is contacted by Talia, who demands to know where he is, since Lazarus is being stripped to shreds by the press and lawyers, and she needs help saving what she can and then busting her father out of jail. Brainiac isn't interested in any of that, resigning from his position in Talia's company since he's busy pursuing other avenues. He turns off his communicator as he arrives at the house of Lex Luthor, looking to recruit the man into his little team. So Lex now being part of the book isn't something I think we'd see anytime soon. But from what they set him up in and what his life was in that Absolute Evil special, I'm thoroughly interested to see if he's actually a villain or if he's someone that Brainiac is going to try and manipulate and control to do his bidding. I'm really intrigued to see exactly what the Lex Luthor of this world is, because we haven't really seen anything besides the fact that he lives on a farm, he has a wife. Luthor Corp does exist, but in what form we don't really know. There's just so many cool questions for Jason Aaron to answer, and I'm looking forward to them. Absolute Superman issue 15 surprised the heck out of me with the depth it went into Superman's search for hope in a hopeless world, and the time Jason Aaron is taking to rehabilitate Superman's enemies is just wonderful. Jason Aaron builds out an interesting take on the Man of Steel, and one that is still trying to find his place in the world, but he won't quit trying to help the world in the process. With the promise of Hawkman, Lex Luthor, and more Brainiac in the next couple of issues, I can't wait to see what Aaron and his team have cooking. I am going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.